For me, dyslexia was never about a lack of meaning. My problem was this glut of it. How B can be D, okay, but also P. And what about Q? How do you tell your right from your left hand when both of the L's look equally good to you? Developmental reading disorder, or DRD, is the most common learning disability, affecting 1 in 5 people across languages, races, and genders. It's often conflated with dyslexia, its most recognized form. It is also often conflated with stupidity, which is awkward, and exacerbated by the fact that disabled children who don't receive or process information in conventional ways are usually already struggling to understand what is expected from them. The idea of my project is to write a book of poetry that reflects on being learning disabled as a lived social and emotional reality, a part of my human experience, not something confined to the classroom. Like how it's difficult to learn anything else when you can't read fluently, or how my old spec ed teacher talks so casually about coaxing the kids who'd gone mute to dismiss the importance of writing because until they could shed that shame, they couldn't open up to her or to learning anything else. Like the suicide rate, and the continuing racial and gender inequalities in everything from identification to testing to help. I love teaching poetry to kids for the same reason I like teaching creative writing generally, which is the ability it gives you to express things that aren't polite or aren't talked about, or for whatever other reason language just isn't set up to make easy to say. Because I think that a lot of the markers of what it is like to be you or what it's like to be me are found in that gray area that formal language and company manners isn't really able to deal with. That's why poetry is the best way to discuss how, if you input, output, integrate differently, that doesn't go away when you leave school. And it's also why I think poetry is the genre best suited to expose and explore the insurmountable difference that exists between written and verbal language, especially if I throw a little art in there too. Some or all of my poems will also be written upside down, using English characters flipped into the identity of other Latin letters. These visual metaphors will force my audience out of passive reading, getting them to reconsider the ingrained perceptive filters that Western literate culture has left us with. One of the problems with defining against the center is how different all the different edges end up being. My experience of dyslexia, of DRD, of being learning disabled can ultimately only ever be my own. Still, marginalization and the importance placed on literacy in academia means that many people with DRD or other learning disabilities never pursue higher education. I'm lucky enough to be working on this project as part of my MFA at the University of British Columbia, and I want to take that opportunity to speak back to the ongoing conversations about the experiences of disabled people from my own first-person, poetic perspective.